Welcome to today's Seidokan Saturday, continuing with Pinan Yondan. But before I do, going back to my Arizona one from last week, I want to look at a couple of things. So in kata, we turn and we face different directions, and there are several ways of interpreting those turns. Pretty much debunked is the old myth that a kata was designed to fight multiple opponents. I hit this guy here, then I go this guy here, then I go... Mostly because in a lot of cases, we do a block and then a block, and I haven't really countered this guy. If all I do is a block in one direction and then I turn and block in another direction, am I facing two different guys, or are those two moves connected? Now, there's also the over-interpretation of turns, where a lot of people think every time I turn, I'm throwing. Okay, so we do Pinan Yondan and I'm here, and then I turn and do this. Yes, that could be interpreted as a throw, because it looks very much like I'm punching, then I come under and can do a shoulder throw. We can apply it that way. But we have to look back at the origin of why kata is shaped the way it is, the embusen, or the line of the kata. There are obvious places where there are throws. In wansu, when I go here and I'm lifting as I turn, that turn is very obviously a throw. There are less obvious ones, such as in pasai, or in goju shiho rather, in goju shiho, where I do this, lift the foot, come across, and pull. That's very much a throw, but I've seen it interpreted even in our own Seidokan people. And if you want to do it this way, that's fine, as I'm blocking a kick here, then I'm blocking a punch here, then I'm coming over here. No, it's all the same guy who's behind me. I've grabbed him to throw. He's not going. Uchimata, right? Judo throw. I've lifted him. And then the pull through. So there are places in kata where a turn is very much obviously, let's go to Seisan, for example. I go here and my hands cross before I turn. Well, that's definitely a grab with an arm break, or shihonage, possibly as a throw. The Aikido Jiu-Jitsu throw, shihonage, where you're coming. There are moves in kata where a turn is very obviously connected to a throw. Pinan Yondan, when we've gone here, and I step, turn, and drop, right? Do it from this direction, step, turn, and drop. That's very much connected in pulling through. It's not, I punched a guy here, now I turn and I block this kick. If that was the case, I just blocked this kick, and now I turn and face that way again. I'll do it facing from here. If I go here, turn and block a kick, and then I step away and I'm doing this, what happened to the guy that I kicked here? He's probably punching me in the face. But it makes more sense to connect this as a throw and then onto a new defense. Not a new guy, but facing a new direction. So understanding directions in kata and connections of turns. When is a move continuous into a throw when I turn, and when is a move simply I'm doing a new technique in a new direction? You have to decide for yourself. You can use every turn as a throw if you want. You can use every different direction as a new opponent if you want. But logically and historically, that thinking has kind of been debunked. Now, on that line, back to Pinan Yondan. Last week, as I took the attacks, I took them straight on. Okay? The punch came and I'm straight back. But we can take both of those same techniques and utilize the angles in the kata. Now, this is an interesting one. Funakoshi, in most cases, took what were 45-degree angles in the Okinawan original kata and turned them into a straight line. Notably, Shinto, which is all on a 45, the entire kata, Shinto is all this way in Okinawa. When he turned it into Gankaku, it's all on a straight line in Funakoshi's Shotokan. The Pinan katas pretty much were all on a 45 in the Okinawan, but in the Funakoshi version, everything is straight lines to the sides. So in more cases than not, Funakoshi changed a 45-degree angle into a 90. Pinan Yondan is an exception. In the Shotokan, after we've done this move, Shotokan very much is on a 45, and we do on straight side angles. I find it interesting. They both work, but let's take just a punch coming in, again, like we did last week, straight punch, and we did block, kick, punch, punch. But what if I use either the 45, like Shotokan, or our straight lines in Seidokan, and I turn it this way? Now where am I kicking? Right? So it changes very much. I'd go this way. And especially the one where I used the Shotokan twisting application, when I step here, facing that direction at a 90-degree angle to him, which is what I contend the kata is teaching us. When I turn at a 90-degree angle to my forward starting point, that means I'm at a 90-degree angle to my opponent, or I'm placing him at a 90-degree angle to me. So here, now look how much easier it is to do that turning motion that we did last week. So if I take the straight line application and make it a 90-degree application, it makes the technique much easier to do, okay? So just that little word on angles. Angles in kata teach us where I am relative to my opponent, what my body position is to him. I'm either going to a 45-degree angle toward him, or a 90, or I'm facing him straight on. Those are the basic angles that we're learning. And we learn those in our Seidokan Basic 11, in our YK 11. So I do the first one pretty much straight on. I do the second one pretty much at a 90-degree angle. I do the third one forward at a 45-degree angle. I do the fourth one almost straight forward, as with 5. And then the sixth one straight back instead of angles. So we go straight forward and then straight back. And so our YK11 are teaching us to use the angles the same way that the kata teaches us to use the angles. And the turns, when they're obviously a throw, they're obviously a throw, but sometimes it's just, I just did 3 punches. Now I could go 45-degree forward, but there's a wall here. So I'm going to turn around and just go the other way. Does that mean I'm behind my opponent? Or does that mean that the kata is designed just to be symmetrical and end somewhere near where we started? Does that mean I ran out of space in the dojo and just turned to I do 3 moves this way, so I turn and do 3 moves that way? Does that mean that when I turned, I threw? No, it just means I'm done going this direction. Now I'm going to go this direction. In Seisan, we go here, here, here. Does that mean that I turn direction? That's a throw, right? And then I kick and punch, then I turn again. Does that mean that's a throw every time I turn? No, of course not. It means I'm teaching my body to do an angle to the right side, angle to the left side. I'm positioning my body relative to the attack. And the attack is always from a neutral, and then I move in the direction to place my body in the angle that the kata teaches me to place it. My attacker is always to the front. There are no kata where the attacker's from the side. Because even if the bully mugger were over here, when he attacks, I'm going to turn and face him, and that becomes an attack from the front anyway. The minute I turn, it's an attack from the front. Unless he attacks me from the side and I'm just doing this sideways, which pretty much we don't have in the kata. The kata seem to assume that the attacker is grabbing us, punching us, kicking us, attacking, using those habitual acts of violence from the front. Now, all that said, let's move on with Pinan Yondan. So after we've done block, kick, punch, punch, our next move is Zenkutsudachi, Moroteuke, forward stance, 2-hand block to the front, okay? In Nagamine's Matsubayashi Shorin-ryu Hachiyota, one of his senior instructors, very much points out what should be obvious, that this is not what they interpret as supported block, and I've gone over that before. There's no support here because there's a gap. And if I do try to support here, this actually weakens the block instead of strengthening it. So what is it really? It's a block and a hit. Okay, so the side club is coming at us. We step in, nice solid block, we're hit. I'm inside the arc radius of the club, strike. Very simple, okay? But now I can make it more complex. I can do the block again, and the punch again in this position becomes, and then I go back into my stance again, becomes the arm lock and break, okay? So I'm actually going to do more of it twice. The base technique is just the single block strike. Hey, boom, done deal. But I'm going to continue, block strike again, create the lock, sweep, and I have the arm lock. Go the other direction. Kata. Block, kick, punch, punch. Boom, that's where we are. Now we do this 3 times, right, left, in the kata. So I'm just using that repetition concept to block, punch again, block, punch again. Here's what you'll see. Block, punch, hey, block, punch, back to my front stance, elbow break, maybe punch a few more times if I'm feeling kind of goofy. A little bit on kata, a little review from last week, and our bunkai du jour for today. Thank you for joining. Hopefully that clarifies some things. Again, it's easy to get into the weeds in interpreting kata and believe old myths, right? I elbow this guy, then I block and do something up here, and then, right? There's no elbow to this guy because there's no this guy. The attack is from here. I'm moving, positioning myself relative to that attack. Whether I start from here or not, if I start from here, that just means that when the attack came, I grabbed it. I'm not elbowing somebody behind me, all right, to move here. So whether I do it this way, wherever my hands start, it's not because I'm getting one guy then the next guy. Only one opponent in each kata movement sequence, all right? Get that out of the way. My personal belief, but very much backed up by source material and writings of the masters. That's it. Any questions? Did I cover that? Matt shakes his head. No, I covered it. Good. So until next week, thank you for joining. If there are any confusion or questions, I will do as many follow-ups as you like. Let me know. And until then, let's keep practicing.